You don't get to hide it.
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't get to hide behind the screen.
Oh, wow. Better,
So you
for
have
sure.
a feedback monitor, so
If we talk into this, you can hear now. And if you can't, then it's not our fault.
Either on this side or on
I think it's much better. So you need to keep your backsides still.
that. What's that? When you can.
or the second solution Mike might have decided is if that doesn't work, leather pants for the whole
Leather
time.
pants, leather pants.
Leather pants for the whole time.
Blue leather pants.
It's in the budget?
What's that?
It's in the budget?
Well, I'm a fundraiser.
Okay.
Well, yeah, well,
But not really.
you know what? I bet you a lot of people would donate to that fundraiser.
You know what we do is do a poll to see when that snow melts.
Set up a GoFundMe. I need a handbook.
Do you remember what was the number again?
357.
357.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you who've gathered here in person and to all the ships at sea, everyone who's watching us online. Hello, everybody. We're going to, as has become our custom in the last few weeks, is to kind of have an informal hymn sing before we start. And the choir and Toby and all of us would like to sing number 357 in Voices United. Tell me the stories of Jesus. 357. Tell me the stories of Jesus, I love to hear. Things I would ask him to tell me if he were here. Scenes by the wayside, tales of the sea, stories of Jesus, tell them to me. First let me hear how the children stood noisily, and I shall fancy their blessing takes to me. Days full of grace, all in the love light of Jesus' face. Tell me in accents of wonder how old the sea. Master, ready and kind, shouted the billows and hushed the wind. Into the city I'd follow our children's band. I in my hand one of these heralds that would I see. Modest hosannas, Jesus is King. Show me that scene in the garden of bitter pain, that of the cross for my Savior, where he was slain. Sad ones or bright ones, so they may be, stories of Jesus, tell them. Yeah, every once in a while when we're singing a hymn, there's a line that sticks out to me that I've only ever heard in a hymn. So there's words, lots of words in hymns like dross, and there's like, and things that words that we don't normally use, but I love the phrase, tell me in accents of wonder. I just love that. What's an accent of wonder? I assume it's an excited British one. That's just where I feel. Maybe Phil, we'll have you try something later.
Up here. Go ahead, Phil.
We're not going to do that to him. I would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. The Algonquin peoples have lived on this land since time immemorial. We are grateful to be present in this territory today.
Holy One, as we light our Lenten candle today, may we be mindful of how your love persistently shines, even in our times of wondering, our times of searching for the truth, our times of doubt and pain. Be the light of our lives, we pray. Bring us back to you again. Amen.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am glad to be back, and I want to thank everybody for all the notes that you sent me, and there was like lots of words of encouragement. I felt really kind of embarrassed that I had it, which is a weird feeling to analyze, but there you have it. I tested negative that entire week, and I tested negative that Sunday morning. And then I got home from church. I was feeling okay, and then I felt like the sniffles come on. And then on Monday morning, I felt like I got a full-on cold. So I did another test, and it was positive. And then I panicked, and then I did another test, and it was positive. And then I started making phone calls and headed down to the Ray Friel Center, where I did a PCR test, and it was positive. And then afterwards, certain things, I don't know who here who's tested positive. I know. Yeah, Dick has. What happens when you test positive at a government facility is they call you. So I got a call from a doctor at the Mulford at 8:30 on the Tuesday morning, the day after the test. And I can't tell you how grateful I was to have a doctor on the phone that I could ask questions to. And she was incredibly forthcoming and understanding. And I didn't feel like I was in trouble. But it was a good, maybe just turn it down a little bit there. We're getting some ringing. There we go. How many can hear that? Oh, everybody can now. That's better. Dan. Thank you. Thank you, Laverne. So then I got a call from Public Health. And Public Health said the same thing as the doctor, which was the same thing on the website. And I can't tell you how appreciative I was to get 3 different messengers with exactly the same message. And that was exit from society for 5 days. And so on the 6th day, I was allowed to rejoin the world. And then as far as wearing a mask goes, it said I had to keep a mask on in congregate settings for 10 days. So that was over on the Friday, so 3 days ago. So I know I'm probably a little bit more understandable if I'm not wearing a mask when I'm speaking with you, but I don't feel quite ready yet to go maskless with you folks. The masks are always have been about protecting others from ourselves. It doesn't do a heck of a lot to protect me from you, but it does a lot to protect you from me. And so that's why I'm going to wear it. Because maybe it's just my I don't know, sheepishness, but I almost feel like people are like, when they talk to me, they're like, oh, hi, Mike. How are you? Yeah, nice to see you. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. If they are, it's understandable. So for announcements, the big one, I guess, is that immediately following our service today at 11:30, we're going to be having our annual congregational meeting. I expect that it will be a relatively expeditious yet significant time together. They always are. But I don't think it'll last too long. We're going to need a few minutes to reset the chancel so that the people who are going to be joining us on Zoom will be able to hear and see us properly. So that's happening. Holy Week, you will see information about that in the announcements and on the it'll be on the website. It'll be on Facebook. I guess the upshot is next Sunday's Palm Sunday and Communion. That's exciting. And then Good Friday is going to be online only. And then Easter Sunday will be here. I can't wait. This will be our first Easter Sunday in this. It's been 3 years, really, since we've had an Easter Sunday together. So that'll be great. I want to introduce our camera operator today. It is my son, Isaac Elliott Pro. It might have been a while since some of you have seen Isaac. He looks a little bit taller. Truth is, I don't really have a family. I've been hiring actors for the last 15 years. And the young man who was playing Isaac the first, he wasn't working out. So we replaced him with this guy. And he's doing a great job. So thanks, Isaac, for joining us. Let's all give Isaac a round of applause. He's a good sport. Lenten calendar. Everyone's got access to a Lenten calendar, I hope, by now. And did anybody spend some time with their Lenten calendar this week? I did. I spent a little bit of time. I think a few of us did. I mean, on Monday, we were asked to eat slowly and give thanks for every morsel. Anybody say grace or thank God before they had a meal on Monday? Happy meal then? Yeah, mindful. You don't have to do it out loud. Anybody notice the color green this week? I did. Spring this year is more welcome than other years for some reason. Anybody hear any good news in a newspaper or on TV or online this week? Did anybody hear a good news story this week that they'd like to share that they found to be good news in the media? I know it's hard.
The Pope apologized.
There was that. Yeah. Is the Pope apologizing is one thing, great. I was more interested in the experience of that apology from the delegates who were there. And so when somebody like Phil Fontaine said that he was Phil Fontaine is a former chief of the First Nation, when he says he was deeply moved and encouraged,
Yep.
I'll take his word for it over the Pope's, quite frankly. So that was terrific. Right, so what else do we do? Anybody find a way to give a gift of money this week? I donated $20 to my niece Sky's swim-a-thon.
Oh, fun.
So I did that. And also, if you'd like to find a way to donate to Ukraine, there's all sorts of ways to do that. Of course, the United Church has jumped on the bandwagon as well. So if you go on our Facebook page, somewhere on there, there's a link for that. Also, there is a link on the United Church website. So that's one way to do it. Anybody read a Bible story this week? Rosemary, would you like to share which one? Okay.
Okay, so I have a random one.
Okay.
Okay, so I am currently watching a TV show on Netflix called Prodigal Son.
Oh.
And I looked it up, and there was this big internet argument over the word prodigal.
There always is, yep.
And what does prodigal mean? Because in the title of the show, based on what the show's on, and I won't describe it to you, it's very gory and dark. So I actually went back to the tale of the prodigal son, and I don't think I've read I'll be honest, I don't think I've read a Bible story in a long time, but I sing them all the time, guys. I sing them all the time. So, but yeah, so it was interesting to go back and read what that parable of the prodigal son was about versus what people were talking about on the internet and what the show was representing as a prodigal son. So it was cool.
Yes, in fact, many of you, I'm sure, will remember that I preached about that very word about 7 or 8 years ago.
Well, I mean, you have good taste, I feel.
The word, I don't know how it looked up in your word study, but the word prodigal and the word prodigy and prodigious are related. So we use the word prodigal as in all that naughty, misbehaving son. But the word prodigy, prodigious, means of which comes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So the son returning gave the opportunity for the father to display grace and for the brother to eventually catch up and all the prodigious feelings of love and acceptance and forgiveness that came from that. At least that's the way I read it.
There you go.
All right. All right. And did anybody make a meal without processed ingredients on Saturday? Do you always do? Okay. How do we do on that count, Isaac? No, you think we do? No, he's saying not good. No. What's that? Yeah, let's say they do. Yeah. Okay, I wanted this to be a quick service. It's probably.
Can I have an announcement before we move
Yes.
on? Move on. Okay, so most of you will notice that the choir room is about to start to get a little messy. Okay, we're in the process of going through all of the cupboards that are in that music room and taking things out. We're finding all kinds of treasures. It's pretty impressive to go back and see some of the things. There's photos, there's old music, there's recordings of a 50-person choir, I guess, that used to be here, et cetera, et cetera. But you will see that if you ever have to use that space, we're claiming that table in there for that stuff because there's no point in taking it out and then putting it all back in before we can get it organized. It's not a one-day adventure. Right, Jen? It's an adventure. So you'll notice that. The second thing I would like to say is, by the end of April, if you sang in the choir or knew someone who sung in the choir and maybe has stuff in there, because there's shoes, there's containers, there's purses, like there's a lot of stuff in there. So if you ever were in there or you know somebody who maybe left something behind, please claim it, or we're either going to give it away or throw it out. So by the end of April, I'm hoping that everybody will have an opportunity to go in there and check it out and make sure they haven't left anything behind. And then I think the plan is we're going to paint that room with a fresh coat of paint. Cam, I'm looking at you. I'm going to ask you for help at some point. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen in there just to revitalize the room and make it more about a welcoming space as opposed to just like the room that the choir meets in and the room that everybody else meets in because they have no choice. So stay tuned. If you have ideas, feel free to come to us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Let's sing. The church is wherever God's people are meeting, number 579.
Do we want to go back and do verse 1 again too, so that we get 3 verses out of this? What do you think?
Sure. We'll see. The church is wherever God's people are praising, singing God's goodness for joy on this day. The church is wherever disciples of Jesus remember his story and walk in his way. The church is wherever God's people are helping, caring for neighbors in sickness and need. The church is wherever God's people are sharing the words of the Bible in gift and in deed.
Do verse 1 again.
The church is wherever God's people are praising, singing God's goodness for joy on this day. The church is wherever disciples of Jesus remember his story and walk in his way. Take a moment to say hello to those who are joining us online this morning. We've got Peter. Oh, we've got Pat Osborne is joining us online. Shirley and Ray Mack are watching us. Lee's, good morning, Lee's. Peter and Myrna, Gloria, Kathy and Lauren Perrott. Happy anniversary, Kathy and Lauren Perrott. They just celebrated their 45th anniversary the other day. So that's nice to know. And Don Geddes, welcome Don Geddes. And those are the folks who are chatting with us. There might be other people. And if there are, hello to all of you. Remember, we're going to have our prayer time in just a little bit. So if you'd like to think about prayers of thanksgiving and prayers of concern, get them on the chat soon because there's a bit of a delay between what you see and what I say. All right, so we're on scripture today. John chapter 12, verses 1 to 8. I think John is still in the New Testament. Yes? There it is. John chapter 12, verse 1. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the home of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. There they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Joyce's feet with it, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the common purse and used to steal what was put in it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so she might keep it for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me." Just so you know, 300 denarii was an awful lot of money for these folks. 300 denarii was the equivalent, according to some scholars, and I'm just going to run with it for today's purposes, of about a year's salary. It's a lot of money. I don't know for any of us to have a jar that was an entire year's worth of salary is something really special, really important, and you didn't want to waste it or maybe buy it in the first place. But here it was. And so Mary takes this and she anoints Jesus with an entire year's salary, an investment of time and sweat equity all at once to Jesus. How foolishly extravagant this would have seemed to our friend Judas Iscariot. Now, in this particular passage, I always feel a lot of empathy and sympathy for Judas. But in this passage, he's clearly, John is using him as the foil. He's using him as the villain. And if we weren't sure if he was the villain, he makes sure of it by saying he was stealing from the public purse. So he's not coming at it from pure motives. But I'm sure everybody else there was incredibly shocked. Like, what are you doing with all of this money, all of this nard on Jesus' feet? I mean, there are other people in this world that could certainly benefit from this. So what's going on here? There's so much of it that the smell, the aroma of the perfume filled the entire house. And I'll bet you it even wafted outside into the street throughout the entire neighborhood. But I'll bet you there were other people who thought something wonderful is happening in there. Something extravagant, something loving is happening in there. And if we take Judas' side, which is easy to do, especially when we're talking about budgets and that kind of thing, why are we spending so much money on the LRT and all that kind of stuff? Let's put it aside and remember who Jesus is. Jesus is the Son of God. He's Jesus of Nazareth, but also Jesus is embodied in the least of these, as Matthew teaches us. Jesus is embodied in those who are on the margin of society. Jesus is embodied in the hurting. Jesus is embodied by the ill. Whenever we show extravagant love to those who are embodying Jesus, however foolish it might seem to others, we are worshiping God. That's what she was doing. And it smells gorgeous, and it's attractive, and it's wonderful. She knew what the main thing was. She knew that love was the main thing in her life, and it was to be celebrated. And when we anoint the people who embody Jesus, we are doing the same thing. as Mary did so long ago. So as we go into the rest of worship today, and as we anticipate our annual congregational meeting coming up, let's keep the main thing, just as Mary did. The main thing is always love. Love of God, love of self, love of neighbor, and everything else is commentary. So we're going to be reading through budgets. We're going to be looking at the year that was and anticipating as best anybody could the year to come. But let's keep the main thing, and that is love. Love is expressed by making sure the floors are clean in this building by Urbane, as administrated by the F&P committee. Love is expressed by the diligent work of the trustees and the F&P committee. Love is displayed by the worship committee, working together to help us understand and experience God's grace. All of it is love. So let's have our meeting reflect that. And let's sing, because I do want to keep this as church service. Number 129 said Judas to Mary. Now, there's a little quirk to this, right? Because there's like an instrumental between the verses, right?
There is a little instrumental between verses. So don't jump right into the next verse. The choir will lead you in. They've been practicing being patient for the next part of music. Is this familiar?
We've done it 3 times in the last 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
So we have done it.
It's been done. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I will play it through one time, and then the choir will help us lead through the first verse, but please join us in the first verse. There's 6 verses, so by the time you get to the end of the 6th verse, you will have it down pat, I promise you.
And you'll be, yes. See, I did it.
Said
Judas to Mary, now what will you do? Your ointment so rich and so rare. I'll pour it all over the feet of the Lord, and I'll wipe it away with my hair, she said. I'll wipe it away with my hair.
first verse again.
Say,
Everybody join.
said Judas to Mary, now what will you do? Your ointment so rich and so rare. I'll pour it all over the feet of the Lord, and I'll wipe it away with my hair, she said. I'll wipe it away with my hair. Oh Mary, oh think of the poor. This ointment, it could have been sold. And think of the blankets and think of the bread you could buy with the silver and gold, he said. Buy with the silver and gold. Tomorrow, I'll think of the poor, for dear, you're dead not today. For dearer than all of the poor in this world is my love who is going away, she said. My love who is going away. Said Jesus to Mary, your love is so deep. Today you may do as you will. Tomorrow I say I am going away, but my body I live with you still, he said. My body I live with you still. The poor of the world are my body, he said. To the end of the world they shall be. The bread and the blankets you give to the poor, you'll know you have given to me, he said. You'll know you have given to me. My body will hang on the cross of the world. Tomorrow, he said, not today. And Martha and Mary will fill me again and wash all my sorrow away, he said, and wash all my sorrow away. I love the story songs. I love the ones that tell a story and put their own kind of flavor to it. And I also like melodies like that have got a little bit of character to them. I don't know how else to put it, but it's got a bit of a flair. I love it. Okay, Al, I'll call on you for the invitation to offer.
All that we have, all that we are, our feasting and our fasting, we offer to God. Let us now dedicate our offerings.
All are living, may our spirits must give. Good works of service, offer offering. When we are giving, or when receiving, we belong to God. We belong to God. One more time. You all are living, may our fruits must give. Good works of service, offer offering. When we are giving, or when receiving, we belong to God. We belong to God.
Offering prayer. God, you are doing a new thing. Make a way in the desert and streams in the wasteland. Bless what we offer this day and let it join in the work of peace and justice. Amen.
Please be seated. I'm just looking for my pen. This will do me no good.
Here. I have a pen, Mike, I have a pen.
Prayers of the people and the Lord's Prayer. And I don't see anything on the chat, so I'm going to ask you folks, what are some things that we are grateful for today? Joanne. Yeah. 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 Ryan O'Byrne, formerly of the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah, that's exciting. Lynn.
Granddaughter Kate ran with the universities in New Brunswick yesterday, and she broke a record for the 3,000 meters
Oh,
and the 1,500 meter. And they kept saying that keep an eye on Kate Current, keep an eye on Kate Current, because she bolts at the end. So she's in second place all the way, and then all of a sudden she's gone.
Wow.
And we're very proud of her.
wonderful. Yes, Mark.
Well, I have to be grateful for the medical system and my knee operation is successful. Grateful for all the prayers, grateful for all the meals and people calling me on the phone. My nurse Bill, my granddaughter Anita, And last night we were treated to some fantastic fireworks in Beacon Hill, one that you can talk about me.
Oh,
New Year's in April.
Yeah,
I can watch it from the dining room.
I'm glad. Yeah, Tim Turney put that on with the Beacon Hill Community Association at 9 o'clock last night, and then about 9:02, all the social media started to light up. What's going on? What's going on? It was like, oh, Tim Turney's having fireworks. It was a good night for Tim. Got talked about a lot.
I'm now having pictures of Tim with a big torch with a big thing on the end trying to
Yeah.
light all the fireworks himself running away.
Maybe they were left over from New Year's and they couldn't do it. I don't know, but
There was a lot of fireworks. It was almost like a Canada Day or something. I was wondering what was going on.
oh yeah, no, we heard it. We heard it in who heard it in Orleans? I heard it in Orleans. Yeah. So fireworks. Gloria is grateful. Well, Gloria says the fireworks were Gloria Emanuel. She's chatting and she's grateful that we had fireworks last night, and she is grateful for her 2 great nephews and niece. So great nephews and nieces. In terms of what we're concerned about, Kathy and Lauren Perrant, they had 11 out of 12 of their family got COVID the last couple of weeks, but everybody's doing okay. Yeah, she said recovering, but still some symptoms in some. So we're certainly praying for everybody who's still coping with COVID. Any other prayers of concern, Nancy?
I'm grateful that my Uncle Bill, my mom's older brother, who's 14 years younger than her, was able to come up for a very short visit and surprise her.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, she
He
could.
wanted to see her face to face. We've been talking on the phone and doing like Google Meets, but it's not her best to see her face to face. He came up with his son and his grandson-in-law, I guess we would say. So it was a flying visit, but it was well worth it. Nice.
Wonderful. Good. Good.
And a birthday surprise from her. She'll be 92 a week from Monday.
Well, let's continue to pray. Holy and gracious God, in the midst of all the news, many of it is troubling as we continue through war in Ukraine, continued healing and unearthed pain with Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit neighbors of ours. We also are mindful of those who are continually struggling with COVID, those on the front lines. There's good news. There is reason to celebrate. There always is somewhere in there. And now we're celebrating Ryan O'Byrne's marriage to Christine, a wonderful thing, delayed but joyous. For Katie and her 3,000 meter record. For Marg's knee replacement and her healing, and her gratitude to the medical system and all of those who supported her, especially Bill, RN. Grateful for when we can come together and celebrate safely. Fireworks last night that so many enjoyed. Gloria is grateful for her great nephew and nieces. And we're grateful that Uncle Bill was able to visit Fran, who's going to celebrate her 92nd birthday soon. Holy gracious God, we're also grateful for some healing and steps forward that our sisters, brothers, and others of the First Nations and the Métis and the Inuit communities have experienced this week. We're also grateful for all the acts of kindness and generosity that are flowing out of our country into Ukraine and other places too. We take a moment now to think of those, perhaps even ourselves, who are struggling, those who are ill, those who are convalescing, those who are lonely. We do so in these moments of silence, confident that you will hear us, even though we don't speak. Amen. And because it was requested, we love it. I absolutely love it when folks request hymns or even like Bible stories they'd like us to talk about and pray about and think about. I love it because it shows we're all kind of engaged. Well, we had a request, and he's not here today. He's watching at home. So Kim Current, you asked for it. We're singing the Lord's Prayer this week. Number 916, Voices United, but also up here.
It's not technical enough to chat with you.
What's that?
It's not technical to be able to chat with you.
Okay, all right. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Please be seated. You know what? We're going to stay seated for this next one too, because I'm going to get you standing up again right away.
So we're gonna do Let Us Build a House, but just something about this Lord's Prayer. So I'm gonna full disclosure, I have a very hard time playing it because it's not written with any sort of theoretical, intuitive approach. So it's quite difficult to play. But I realized today that part of my difficulty is you guys as a community have naturally added in things that aren't written in.
You're kidding.
Pauses, inflections, holding notes. So I couldn't figure out why the last time two times we did this, I was like, man, I am butchering this. I heard you today, and I'm taking a bunch of notes, and I'm going to try and improve it every time we do it. And then once we get perfect, we'll find it.
That's the spirit. All right. Oh, well, we are building a house during our ACM, our annual congregational meeting after the service. So I thought it was a nice song for us to sing as we anticipate moving from worship into a different kind of worship, which is our meeting, because that's worship too. And I just love this picture of Jimmy Carter, and I use it for every time we sing this song because I just love that guy. So let's build a house. Number 1 in More Voices. Let us build a house where love can dwell and all can safely live. A place where saints and children dwell, our hearts learn to forgive. Built of hopes and dreams and visions, rock of faith and vault of grace. Here the love of Christ shall end divisions. All are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place. Let us build a house where prophets speak and words are strong and true, where all God's children dare to seek, to dream God's reign anew. Here the cross shall stand as witness and as symbols of God's grace. Here as one we claim the faith of Jesus. All are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place. us build a house where love is found in water and weed. A banquet hall on holy ground where peace and justice meet. Here the love of God of Jesus is revealed in time and space. As we share in Christ the feast that frees us, all are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place. Let us build a house where hands will reach beyond the wood and stone, to heal and strengthen, serve and teach, there live the word they've known. Hear the outcast and the stranger, bear the image of God's face. Let us bring an end to fear and danger. All are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place. Let us build a house where all are near, their songs and visions heard, and love their treasure taught and claimed as words within the word. Built of tears and cries and laughter, prayers of faith and songs of grace. Let this house proclaim from floor to rafter, all are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in this place. We could tell. It's been a while since we've been together to express those things of our faith that we hold in common, and we thought we would do that for our commissioning and benediction today as we commission ourselves into our meeting. Let us stand, and if you are comfortable doing so, we will recite together the new creed. We are not alone. We live in God's world. We believe in God, who has created and is creating, who has come in Jesus, the Word made flesh, to reconcile and make new, who works in us and others by the Spirit. We trust in God. We are called to be the church, to celebrate God's presence, to live with respect in creation, to love and serve others, to seek justice and resist evil, to proclaim Jesus crucified and risen, our judge and our hope. In life, in death, in life beyond death, God is with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God. When you go from this place, but don't go from this place. Go from this moment to the next, because we're going to stay for our meeting. Do I have that? Yeah, I'm good. You're all set. When you go from this place, be true. May the blessing of love find you. May the winds of the Spirit guide you across the ocean of all our days. May the seeds of your love, your life, adorn the way. When you go from this place, be true. May the blessing of life find you. May the winds of the Spirit guide you across the ocean of all your days. May the seeds of your love, your life, adorn the way. 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 So now we're going to take about 10 minutes or so to stretch our legs or take care of whatever we have to take care of. And then we're going to come back for around 11:30 for our annual congregational meeting. Those of you who are joining us online, you will have received the Zoom link in the weekly email. I think I sent it out the other day. And also it's also on our Facebook page. So it's out there. I'm confident that those who need it have got that link, and we will see you in about 10 minutes. I'd like a couple of volunteers maybe to grab one of the longer plastic tables so that we can bring it up to the chancel for the chair and the secretary to use. Thank you.